Hello everyone, welcome back to the KMTRADERS channel. So this is the full market analysis volume 93, again giving you an insight of what we're going to look in for next week and also compare our analysis from last week as well. So we are going to start off with gold. So last week we were looking at the basis on a bullish sentiment. I believe we were looking for like a price rise towards the upside. Now we've pretty much saw that happening right now, so that's good, that's fine. We see there was a slight rally right there. So what I'm looking at for now is a possibility of, essentially we're looking at what's going to happen in this area here. So there is two possibilities that I've got in mind. So I'm actually going to get rid of this second scenario that we've drawn out here. And get rid of this. So basically what we could be looking at is we'll either get a continuation that will push through this whole barrier of 1840 and we'll have a continuation move higher. But what I'm actually interested in looking at is to see a possible turnaround to the downside. So whether that price makes a new high and then pushes lower, that's something that we could anticipate, or we'll see price, this strong candle towards the downside could be enough to convince the sellers in the market to kick in, and then we will start to see price drain through. So that's the second alternative that we could be anticipating, and pretty much we're just really trying to target around the 1720, so this area here. Can get rid of this right now, but that zone here, if we can get around here, then there's something that we could be looking at into, and we'll either, if we start to reach into this area here, two things: we'll either break this barrier here, in which case we'll drop lower, or the other thing is we'll start to see a reaction in which we should, well, if we start to see a massive bull run, or something bullish from here, we could expect price to reach and push higher. But I don't think we need to discuss that right now, because realistically I think this is going to take a week in itself to even fall into place. But hopefully by the end of this week we'll either get a clear definitive answer. So again, as the third option is that this sell side bias fails and we have a complete upside bias still, and it could obviously break the 1840 barrier. If so, then we should be pretty much bullish, and I'll be expecting higher moves. So from the last week play, if you were positioned well here from a buy angle, you could pretty much leave a percentage of your profits in, and just pretty much wait and see what price does, because there is obviously, like I said, a possibility the price could rally towards the upside, and if so, then you're pretty much, you're going to have an extended amount of profit. But if you find that there is now rejection coming into play here, like we saw from the end of last week, there is a possibility that this could drop off, and again, it really depends if you really do, if you can get in on a sell position. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at so far with gold. Just trying to keep an open mind, but we're pretty much battling within the 80-40 and the 1680 range. So pretty much we need to push out of that range very soon, and we'll get the answer possibly in the next week or so. So let's take a look into Euro USD. So this week has pretty much just been a range bound market pretty much towards the end of the week. So what we was expecting was a potential move to the downside before an up. So it actually did drop just a little bit. I was actually looking for more of a deeper pullback, so that I could look for a buy, but again this rallied off, so that's fine. I guess we could say that this point here was that rally towards the upside, so if you got into that one, then that's great. So what I'm looking at for now, again, is this possibility of price either going to continue up. So in this case, we'll find that we could get price to drop off a little bit, but ultimately it could just start to rally higher. Or the second thing that we could look at is price to turn over to the downside and then rally back up. So pretty much the idea of what I'm trying to get at is we're still trying to look at these buy scenarios, because that's where we want to place ourselves, because again, I do believe that the higher time frame could be potentially bullish. That's if it continues to break all these different levels as we go along. And equally, even if we do break all these levels, there's still a chance that price can turn around to the downside. So don't think about negating any sell positions. I'm personally looking at counter trends as well. And again, if the counter trend starts to outweigh the pro trend trade, you know, it could easily help you make more profits along the way. So I hope that kind of made sense. So yeah, so there's two scenarios that I'm looking at here, and again, this bias for the the long-term push towards the upside is only valid if we stay above 1.52. So pretty comfortable with that and happy with what I'm looking at for next week for EURUSD. NZDUSD. So what we was looking at from last week was a potential sell-off. I think this second scenario here is what I basically thought of doing, but ultimately price broke through the 0.71 barrier, so this zone, and we ended up pushing higher. So I think what I'll be looking at for now for this week, if we can get rid of this now, we can get rid of this, is pretty much this resorting back to the first bias or the first scenario in a sense, where we'd just be looking at a retracement and then push higher. So that's probably what I will be looking into now. Whether this completely drops lower or if it only drops just a little bit, again, these drawings are not in any particular scale or accurate by any means. They're just something that just to draw that I expect price to probably drop a little bit further lower before we can look at a buy scenario. So again, you have to anticipate and look at the market every day. Don't think you can just jump in when you want and just take a buy when prices dropped a bit lower than this level here. So you just have to wait for price to switch over, I guess, in my opinion, and then we could be pushing into 0.73. I've got this entire rally towards the upside, but this would be the higher level zone that we're looking at, 0.64. So if you scroll back, this is basically the high. I don't really know. Yeah, there it is. So this is the high. So that's pretty much where I'm trying to anticipate the market right now. So I'm not really trying to rush anything so far. Like I said, with the other pair, is that even though that price could make and break all these different levels, it could still result in a downside push, in which we could get a breakdown here. So again, this doesn't mean that you hold your profits or any buy positions all the way to the upside expecting that it will, or if you're holding any trades that are in a loss expecting it to push higher. Again, anything could really happen. Excuse me. So yeah, we have to pretty much see what's going to happen in this. I'm expecting a bit of expecting price to essentially roll over towards the upside. So we'll see if we can grab an entry to the upside there. AUDUSD. Again, I was actually looking for a sell-off opportunity if we could have stayed below 0.745, but as you can see, there was no real reason to get involved here. Price completely went through it, and we're starting to see some slight rejections now. So now we can pretty much get we can get rid of this bias of any downside for now. So what I will be looking at now is the second scenario that we've drawn here, in which we expected, if we did see a price break above that zone, we'd be waiting for pretty much a retracement of some sort. So this is the recovery right now that I'm looking into. So we could expect price to just probably dip a bit lower, and then ultimately push just a little bit higher. So I've got these zones mapped out here. So 0.6, 0.765 is probably where could be looking at to anticipate some targets. But again, anyway, I'm happy with taking some profits along the way. So don't think the price will definitely get here, like I said. So yeah, we can still use this uptrend, I guess, as a possible barrier. I mean, you could use this as to trail stop loss if you really do want to, but I don't really do that. But that's if you like utilizing the trend lines in your trading strategy. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking at for next week. Really, is just a bullish bias, and obviously there could be some sells that you can take as a counter trend, whilst we expect and anticipate price to drop lower. So really we just have to wait and see what happens before we can anticipate the next buy opportunity. Okay, so moving on to USDJPY. So we was actually looking at this last week. We was looking at price to drop off, so there could have been a counter trade, or there could have been a sell-off trade here that you could have looked into. Again, that's something that we're looking at as well. If the pips are good enough, then that's when I'll take it, but if not, then there's no real point in my opinion. But yeah, that's what we're trying to look at so far. So we could expect more price moves to push lower, and that could be another sell entry that you could take. But ultimately, I'm looking for buys to continue this move up higher. I'm liking this bullish pressure into the market right now, so just going to try and stick with it and see where we can go. But I do feel that price can still drop lower, maybe, but whether that it drops immediately, it's totally up to the market, I guess. So we're still going to look for those buys as well, but again, it really depends if we're going to see it this week, and that's what I'm trying to explain, is that it might be that we just get sales this week that are more profitable, and then maybe the week after we'll start to see a shift and more of a move towards the upside. So something that you could keep in mind. CAD to JPY, again, was really waiting for some sort of change, so I'm starting to see some little moves to the downside right now. So this could be your signal to take some sell-off entries. And again, I'm not saying prices are going to move all the way down here, it's just an anticipation, just to explain in a visual way, that we're going to then look for the buy on the pullback and hope that it can anticipate that this huge run is going to continue. So that's pretty much what I'm looking into. So nothing really too complex right here. These zones are kind of just support and resistant, like dynamic ones, so there's nothing too special about them, to be honest. So yeah, let's just see if they find any reactions really. EURJPY, similar situation again. We're looking pretty much at a sell. Whether that, obviously you want to take in a counter trend trade here, this is quite steep, so you have to be very careful on this one. But ultimately we're looking at a buy, so again, you can still take a sell if you really did want to. It could look something like that as a possibility, but at the end of the day, we're still looking at a buy opportunity, and to anticipate at least price reaching to the upside of this zone, so 134. This zone here is kind of irrelevant, but it could act as a dynamic support and resistance, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, nothing really wanted to touch on that. I think this is a very nice progression. I think it'd be silly to think price could switch otherwise, but again, anything can happen, so I wouldn't be surprised if something of that nature did happen. But again, just trying to look at it from a price structure point. So yeah, so I am still going to be looking for those buying opportunities. NZDUSD, again, similar story. We're going to be looking and anticipating for price moves lower before we then look at a buy. I mean, this could be a nice zone at 80 flat that you could possibly look into, and we're going to try and look for those buying opportunities towards the upside. So nothing too special here. AUDJPY, again, we look off for that sell, possibly if you really did want to, and then ultimately anticipating this buying opportunity that could hopefully push price higher than that current high, so probably 86 and higher. So that's ultimately where I'm trying to push or expect the market to go to. Finally, the last two pairs, USDCHF. So this one, what I'm trying to look and engage with, I think I've got, let me have a look at my notes real quick. Okay, so 0.91, so 0.91, I should have drawn this in, but this zone here for me is quite relevant. So what we're trying to look at, right, is we're trying to see if price can react off this level and stay above 0.91 and find some sort of rejection. in the sense that we start to see a turnaround, and we'll be anticipating 0.935, so around here, and we're going to try and see if we can push above it. And then this is pretty much kind of like the thought process of what I've got in my notes. So we're looking for price to push lower, for price to push a bit higher, but ultimately this could lead into some nice profits either way. So I don't really want to say that there's definitely going to be a rejection here. So in the meantime, while we don't necessarily know that, I think it's wise to be a part of the seller's market for now. So essentially on an intermediate level or short-term level, you could be anticipating market to do something like this, and you'd be looking for sells unless we start to see some strong bullish activity, in which then this would be you know, you'd have to wait for the next buying opportunity to push higher, I guess. But ultimately, that, you know, with this this scenario here that we've got in the second part, or the second drawing here, is something that to keep aware of if we start to see price drop lower and into this 91 range. But if we start to see in this first case, if in this first case scenario, is that if we start to see price push up higher, but then, you know, we anticipate sells and we take on sells, there is a possibility that price can just run straight through 0.91. So it's something to just be aware of, and if so, and you didn't take a sell here, you can just always wait for the retest. So again, I think that'll be probably next week, I would say. So it's totally up to you what you want to do. But like I said, I'll always give you my opinion on the on a week-to-week basis. But yeah, these are the two scenarios that I'm kind of looking into for now. So just keep your eyes peeled basically around this area really, and watch out for any bullish pressure that results into the market from the early part of the week, and if so, it could actually start to lead to price action pushing higher. Okay, so the last pair for this week is USDCAD. So essentially what we were looking at is a possible price move towards the upside. So if I just shift this along right now, actually let me just get rid of this, but essentially we're expecting some sort of push up. Okay, so what we're looking at is something like this. So that could be, so this one rally towards the upside before we continue to push lower, and then we're going to wait for price action to really turn over here. But again, this could really drop, but ultimately we're looking at something like this where it starts to continue this bull pressure higher. So again, this lower high that's could potentially form could happen anywhere within this range here, but this is just to map out, on an easier way to look at it, sort of thing, where we could expect what we could expect price to do on a on a structure level. So we're just trying to find that pullback, and again, you can be a part of the pullback in a counter trend way. So you could look at a buy scenario, and then once we start to see price possibly reach up, if we start to see any failures of price action and we start to see any bearish pressure start to kick in, we could look at taking some sells, and we could take some sells into the downside. And then obviously when we get to here, if there's any bullish pressure start to kick in, we can start to potentially be involved at a buy scenario, in the sense that we look to see price run into 1.3. But anyway, I do think this is going to take a very long time, so I wouldn't expect this to happen in a week. I probably would say that this move here would probably take 1 to 2 weeks, and here, again, 1 to 2 weeks. See again, it really could happen really quickly. I couldn't really tell you, to be honest, but I'm just sharing this with you guys just because I think it's interesting to see the overall look on the market. I think this is pretty much what I'm personally anticipating. Again, totally up to you if you have anything other than what I've told you. But yeah, if you have any of your thoughts, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I'm happy to see your analysis too. It's something that will help me also. But again, I do hope you got some value from this week's video, and obviously if you did, feel free to leave a like and a sub subscribe to our channel as well so that you don't miss any other video. So we do also have a trading group that you can join. That link is in the description, guys, so make sure you're a part of that group. And again, I do appreciate your time for listening. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Yeah, like I said, I do appreciate your time for watching it if you made it all to the end of this video. And I do we'll see what happens next week, like I said, with this analysis. So thanks guys, and peace.